Tuesday at 10 a.m. and during your 5:15 p.m. drive time. Here at KPPM Radio, 93.5 FM, as we have important discussions about the direction of our city, its future, and the leadership I will bring to the city of Lake Charles as your mayor.
Paid for by the Marshall Simien for Mayor campaign.
KPPM 93.5, Lake Charles community-minded station, 24/7.
The views and opinions of the following program are not owned by 93.5 FM KPPM LP.
All right, friends, we are back here on I Am Encouraged Radio, here on your award-winning community-minded station, 93.5 KPPM LP, Lake Charles. And friends, I am just so very excited and grateful to have with me live in studio today. You all know him. You've been hearing him over these past few weeks, and you're getting to know the candidate who is running for the mayor of the city of Lake Charles. I'm talking about none other than Attorney Marshall Simien. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, my brother. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. And good morning to you, Miss Paul, as well.
Good morning.
All right. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot to talk about. And one of the things that we kind of left off last week talking about, we talked about you and the city council and the city's response and your role even in that to Hurricane Rita when it hit this city. We talked about the $90 million bond issue and some of the things that you were able to get done as a result of that while you were on the city council. I mean, you were instrumental in helping to reshape and rebuild our downtown area, in particularly right there around that Ryan Street corridor. Also, you did the Riverside Park along with the MLK Playground and the Enterprise Boulevard extension. And so let's take things a step further, if you will, and tell me a little bit about your service on the Louisiana State Board of Commerce and Industry.
Okay, Louisiana State Board of Commerce and Industry works with it's a board under the Louisiana Department of Economic Development. So the past governor, John Bell Edwards, appointed me to that board just when the state was coming out of the pandemic. So, the pandemic wound up in 2020, shut down the entire economy of the whole world. So as everything was coming out and getting started again back around 2022, I was asked by the governor's office to jump on board because we had to basically restart the economy of our state just like everything else. So I went in there and the State Board of Commerce and Industry, I call that big boy economic development. We handle the largest economic development projects in the entire state. A lot of them are right here across the bridge over here in the Westlake and Sulphur area with the plants. We do a lot of industrial tax exemptions, enterprise zones, a lot of incentives that bring people in. For instance, if you look at Calcasieu Parish, the amount of tax exemptions that's sitting out there just from the industries and everything else is in the billions of dollars. And some people say, well, that's billions of dollars that should be paid, but if you didn't have these type of exemption programs in place, we're competing with a lot of other places, especially like next door to the state of Texas, that if we didn't have some sort of incentives to bring these companies in, then they just wouldn't come. So we have them come in, but they have to make commitments to a certain amount of investment that they're going to spend and how many jobs they're going to create, and we pretty much hold them to that. Well, the thing with the pandemic was that the pandemic, nobody ever dealt with anything like that before. So when you shut down the whole economy, the whole world economy, all the dominoes fall. There's a lot of things that have been promised and contracted with the state that just weren't able to be done. So we had to navigate through people and hold them accountable, but also understand the circumstances that they were operating in. Like, for instance, you had some companies that had promised thousands of jobs, construction jobs, and afterwards hundreds of other jobs. But the financial markets were in disarray after the pandemic. A lot of the investment vehicles weren't there, so we had to walk through and make sure that they were still going to keep their promises. But some of them we had granted them additional time. Some of them we had to revise the contractual issues that they had. But for the most part, the whole thing was just to get the whole economic engine restarted and moving forward in a positive direction, because it does, we have to create jobs and people have to support their families, and not only support their families, but they have to, they have to put food on the table. They have to put clothes on their backs, on their children's back, and educate them. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that kind of economic development. And the board works very well with the Louisiana Department of Economic Development to make sure that these large industries keep their word, but also create the jobs and that the workers are taken care of.
All right. So that is, again, kind of what you did on that board, which I see how that helps to, if you were to become mayor, how that could help to put you in a position where you already know how to procure businesses, companies, corporations, and say, hey, here's what is appealing about this area. Here's why you should settle and put your business here in this area. And so I want to continue to encourage people, as you listen to the things that Attorney Simien has done, begin to kind of look at it through the scope or the lens of how this can help or benefit our city. And so I think that's something quite interesting there, that you were able to do that. And it wasn't something you sought after yourself, but as you said, it was appointed by then Governor John Bell Edwards.
Right, and my background is in business. My law practice is representing businesses, but also looking out for families. So, it started. My public service really started when Governor Kathleen Blanco appointed me to the Port Board.
Okay,
but from the port, I saw the what we call Southwest Louisiana. We're a huge economic engine strategically in this state. So when it came time to restart the economy, it was pretty obvious that we need somebody who understands the economic engine that's Southwest Louisiana. So that's why my name came up. So on the port we did the LNGs, we did the casino, we fixed the port. Now it's the 10th largest, and then we had to come back and start talking about, well, you've got industry, you've got communities. So I had to come in and, as a representative of Southwest Louisiana, not only deal with each business economic development project around the state, but also be able to advocate how it integrates into what we do here, so that something's not happening in one area of the state at the expense of the other.
Absolutely. And so, friends, I really want to continue to encourage you all. You're listening to the voice of Attorney Marshall Simien. He is a candidate running for the position of mayor of the city of Lake Charles, and he is laying out for you, rather, his qualifications for the position of mayor. He's told us about his educational background, how he studied government at McNeese State University and has a degree in government, and he explained to us what that means. He also has talked to us, as he even just mentioned just now, about his law practice and how that has helped to prepare him. We've talked about him being on the Lake Charles Port Board, and even when he was with the city council and some of the things that he did during the time he was on the city council. And then also just now we're referring to or talking about him being a part of the Louisiana State Board of Commerce and Industry. And again, that is of all of those positions that I just shared with you, of course, with the exception of his law firm, all of these boards, councils, things that he's been a part of, he either had to be elected or appointed by someone in higher authority. Right. And that means that someone saw something in him that said, hey, this is a person who has the capability to be able to lead, a capability to be able to direct and help us manage. I think that's a key word that we need to look at is manage. Because a lot of the things that, Attorney Simien has referred to have kind of dealt in the financial sector. And when we look at where our city is financially and the way that things have been managed, you may say to yourself, it's time for new leadership. And if you say it's time for new leadership, there's a candidate here who is presenting himself.
And James, to give you a real clear perspective on it, we went through Hurricane Rita, and that was a pretty serious devastation to our region. But with Katrina, our state took a serious hit. So when we came back and did what we did, we passed our bond issue, we were strategic and everything else. It's easy to forget in 2008, the entire national economy took a dive too. You remember?
That's right.
They had some businesses that were too big to fail, like AIG and GM. The entire country was going through an economic downswing.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, our area, Southwest Louisiana, had the strongest economy in the whole nation. And that was the case all the way up until Hurricane Laura came. So we were on track. We weathered those storms, and we basically showed that our region, when it's fully activated by someone who knows what they're doing, we're the envy of the state, probably of the world. Look, we have the largest LNG industry in the world. Our gaming industry is the best in the state. Our industrial complex is well positioned to be strategically important to the entire country. But after Hurricane Laura, those things set you back, but they should never get you off track. And that's part of the reason why I'm standing before you today running for mayor, because I see where there's some things that we need to get back on track with, because we should never be too far off track. We have all the ingredients to be the strongest economy in the United States, and we need to bring everybody to the table, and they have to have meaningful participation. You can't just have people on the sidelines participating or just getting what's being thrown out as scraps. We have a lot of talent in this community. We have a bunch of communities. Lake Charles is an area of many communities, but the whole thing is to bring them together in unity. That's the whole meaning behind communities, coming together in unity. Mm-hmm. And we are only as strong as the weakest link. And we have a number of different things that I think are underperforming that can do well. You hear a lot of talk about North Lake Charles, and there's a general consensus out there among other people that area does not contribute to the welfare of the city, and I strongly disagree. I live in North Lake Charles. I think the I-10 corridor is the future of economic development in this area if the energy goes into it. I think the 210 corridor, we have a loop for a city of our size, but we're not utilizing those things. So while we're building children's museums on the lakefront, cities like Lafayette that have a whole lot less to work with, they've got Top Golfs and Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is about to come in on Louisiana Avenue in the Lafayette area. That's going to be huge. If you see a Buc-ee's, you want to talk about bringing in new traffic, new dollars, new revenues to help build a city. Those are the type of things we should be going for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, friends, let me just take a moment real quick to say, if you want to connect with this candidate, if you want to talk with this candidate, you can reach out to him. His website is Simien for Mayor. That's SIMIENFOR, of course, MAYOR.com. That's SimienForMayor.com. You can find him on social media at Elect
Marshall Simien.
There it is. Elect Marshall Simien. I didn't want to mess that up. And so you can find him there. Friends, again, if you have questions for this candidate, you can always submit them there, and you can always connect with him. You can always support the campaign. And so, again, be sure to check out that website, the Facebook, all of that. Okay. Now, I want to talk about this real quickly. You just finished up a 2-year term as the chair of the Community Foundation of SWLA. What is the Community Foundation, and how did your service there help prepare you to become the mayor of Lake Charles?
Well, the Community Foundation is a nonprofit that deals with philanthropy. Philanthropy is where people have funds, money. They get those things together and they invest them with larger funds and community foundations, and they support different things. Like some of them will have funds that support schools, support scholarships, support workforce development. So our community foundation here in Southwest Louisiana, it started through the United Way. We're linked in with the Baton Rouge Foundation. Baton Rouge Foundation is huge. So we have a a pool of about $200 million that's invested together, and that generates a lot of revenues for people to do different things. So I've been on the community foundation now on the board for about 10 years. And I remember when I first got on, all they did was basically philanthropy. And, my thing was I wanted to serve on that board, but I wasn't interested in just watching rich people's money, overseeing it where it goes to their little things. So I said, we need to do something a little differently. And so we got together. Baton Rouge Foundation is a very, very progressive foundation. They do a lot of things. I mean, they bought like IBM into Baton Rouge, So they said, well, what do y'all want to do? So we started a committee called Civic Initiatives, which is very important to me. Civic Initiatives means trying to find ways to get those types of revenues and funds to be invested in things that's going to transform the whole community. So one of the prideful projects I have is that we did a better block demonstration. Better block demonstration is when you take an area and you imagine what it would look like if it was fixed up. So we took the area right out here, Enterprise Boulevard between Broad and I-10, and we basically built a city like a sound stage. We had shops, we had local people come in that were selling, like you had some people that sold cookies out their house, but now they had a shop front where they were doing that. We had snow cones, we had a sports bar, we had parks and everything else. Matter of fact, that was the precursor to the Nellie Lutcher Park that's sitting up there. We had a park set up for that. We had an area where you had live entertainment. People came out for that. I remember that same day we did the Better Block demonstration. That was 2019 when LSU and Alabama played the Joe Burrow game, and we had that right around the area of the Foundation House. And you should have seen the people were there and watched a great game. And so all the vendors there made a good amount of money, and we showed what could happen. Well, out of that came, the driving to put incentives out there to bring Acadian Ambulance in. You now have the park over there, but you still have other businesses that are not doing well. I mean, traditional strong businesses in that area, like Ball's Fried Chicken, is a staple of the community since 1947, and it's struggling. It's struggling, and there seems to be no lifeline that's being given to them, which I think is very important because that's part of the cultural and heritage portion of the Nellie Lutcher Cultural District. You have Sacred Heart School. Sacred Heart, the gym just got torn down. We don't know what the plans are to resurrect that, but that's a 100-year-old institution to our community, and those things seem to be out on their own when it's unnecessary. So those are the type things that the Community Foundation gets involved in. After Hurricane Laura, David Fallow and his wife. David Fallow is from Moss Bluff. He's a local guy. His brother Tom Fallow is with the Cox firm. David Fallow is one of the founders of Yahoo. So he came in, he and his wife saw what had happened in the community, and they said, well, we want to give a $2.5 million donation to do something transformational in the community. And out of all the places they could have gone to because of what we do at Civic Initiatives, they brought that over to the Community Foundation. So they made a $2.5 million grant. And what we did was we put together a 50-year resiliency plan called Just Imagine. And you may have heard about that because we did something with that we had done before with Hurricane Rita when we brought in Andreas Duane. We had the Just Imagine thing come in. We brought in people that came in. They gave their ideas, their dreams of what they would like to see done in their community. And we brought in a nationally recognized urban design company. That's what they call it, Urban Design Associates, UDA. They're nationally recognized for the things that they do. And we put together the Just Imagine plan. And out of that plan, we had 10 catalytic projects. And to give you an idea, these projects are supposed to be things that's going to jumpstart the recovery and continue to recover over the next 50 years. That's going to be a generational blessing to our community. And some of the things that they did was like, for instance, we had Nellie Lutcher Cultural District. That's this area. What are the plans to do that? Because nobody plans to fail; they just fail to plan. So it does that, and it's not just a plan because those things kind of sit on the shelf. But it talks about how do you fund these things? What's out there that's available to them? Like for instance, with Riverside Park, one of the projects that's out there is Bayou Greenbelt. Bayou Greenbelt is conceptually take all the water that we have, build lifestyle amenities around it, walking trails, biking trails, canoe things like that. Well, they have been talking about Bayou Greenbelt, and we partnered with the United States Department, National Parks Department, to come in because they have different grants and incentives to do that. When they came in, took a tour, they looked around the different places, like at McNeese, that's Contraband Bayou. But when they got to Riverside Park, they almost fell out. They said, "Oh my goodness, this is perfect. This is exactly what we envisioned for waterfront type of access and amenities." So the irony is that a part of Lake Charles that people, even the people that live there, have a sometimes a negative connotation is sitting there with some world-class amenities that are just waiting to be activated. Another thing it did was we had the waterfront development. I mean, we've got the lakefront is our front porch, and that it should have Top Golf and Dave and Buster's and things like that to complement the Crying Eagles and the Children's Museum. I'm still not sold on that. I think the Children's Museum should have been put by Millennium Park with a Chuck E. Cheese or something and make that more the kid-centric area. I always thought the lakefront should be family and adult entertainment and pull people off the interstate, do different things. I always thought the garage should have like a high definition video board attached to it that shows when you're having downtown at sundown or you're having different things in the city where you can give a visual of that. That's going to ask people to, well, let's move off the lakefront. Right now, when people come through our city, just from the I-10 area near the beach, what they see is a new children's museum. That's not going to pull in. I don't see people beating their parents up saying, "Look, pull over." But at the same time, you're seeing porta potties on the beach, and that's that's a big difference for me. There is energy going into the parking garage, and when I was on the city council, when Pinnacle gave the city that property, I had everything torn down. I said keep the garage up because I wanted to fix that because a garage provides a parking solution. If you have a stacked parking and the businesses don't have to put parking lots, if I'm out there with my family, I'd rather move from one venue to another on that lakefront than have to cross through a parking lot and pass through cars and things like that. So that was taken care of. That was part of the vision that I put out there even when I was on the city council, and it's finally come into play. But the 11 catalytic projects touches all parts of our area. You have you have strategies to address vacant and underutilized property. There's a lot of, and it's not just in Lake Charles, it's every urban area has a lot of adjudicated property that's just out of commerce. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think that, well, those properties you can't ever get the titles cleared. And, sometimes you have to think a different way. I mean, the reason why a cat has 9 lives because there's more than one way to skin a cat. So instead of thinking about well, you can't clear the titles, think about what really stops development is, can you get title insurance? That's the key. And I think the state, from what I've seen being on the Board of Commerce and Industry, the state is best positioned to underwrite some sort of an insurance program that would get those properties where your traditional people that write real estate, title insurance, that they could tap into that and write insurance on these types of properties and let them get developed. And then when people come in, if they have legitimate air claims, that's the area where they go to instead of trying to knock off a Target Center or something like that. So those are solutions that are out there. We've got the Mid-City neighborhood transformation, and that's huge because the area in Mid-City it's right behind the mall, there's a housing project with about 40 units. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the area was devastated after the hurricane, just like St. Mary Drive was devastated. And so we partnered with the Housing Authority. They were seeking a $40 million grant to get that area transformed into a mixed income community because that's what the HUD model is now. You can't just horde a whole bunch of people in the low income communities because it creates and enhances different social problems. But if you have mixed income communities where you take the stigma off of subsidized housing, you have very, very strong neighborhoods and it takes care of a lot of issues. So we partnered with HUD, with the Housing Authority to get a $40 million grant for that area, but we also partnered with a whole bunch of other businesses and support agencies in the city, and they committed like $270 million. So that whole area is going to get about $310 million worth of transformation. But in the coming years, you're going to see the area between the mall and Sallier Street totally transformed. And that's huge, and some people say, well, that should have happened in North Lake Charles, but my thought was, let's do a demonstration just like we did the Better Block demonstration in one area, and see what works, and then start translating that to other areas. I think that's the way you have to do that. So that area is prime for that. There's the HRI's development is going to oversee it. They're the ones that's doing the Woodring apartments over on Hodges Street. And what you see on Hodges Street, the apartments and things like that are coming up, that's going to be similar to what's going to happen in that entire area, but they're going to have Boys and Girls Village, YMCAs, healthcare centers, everything else that support communities is going to be used. So those are the type of things that we did through the Just Imagine process. The Just Imagine thing was so powerful and so transformative that we just won a national award for that particular plan. But also, people just voted on the Lake Charles Rebound Initiative that the city put forward. And what the city did was wrapped a lot of their proposed projects around, look, this fits within Just Imagine, this fits within Just Imagine. But from the Community Foundation, we put together a Just Imagine process that focused on basically 4 elements: housing, economic development, infrastructure, and culture. And those are the things, when I said that Lake Charles has a number of different communities, those are the type of things that would bring that together into one community. Because when you look at what happened to us, not just with Rita and Laura, but any type of disaster, these type of things, they don't go at, we're going to go at North Lake Charles, or we're going to go at South Lake Charles, or we're going to go at the white community or the black community, the young or the old. They come out at us as one. Mm-hmm. And the only way that you can defend yourself and prepare yourself for that is to become one community. And right now, you can see where there are certain communities that don't even visit each other for different things. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my friends on the south side of town. They have no idea about the struggles that's occurring on the north end of town. And that's something's wrong with that. I think leadership is to be a bridge. We have 7 years to build a bridge, an I-10 bridge, but we need to build a number of other bridges too, because there's a lot of talented people, there's a lot of vision, there's a lot of energy out there that we all need to come together and utilize. And it takes leadership to bring that together. People can't operate in the same silos, not knowing what one another is doing, and think that we're going to be successful. Somebody had mentioned, looks like we're coming back, we're going to be Lake Charles 2.0. And I'm sitting there saying, wait, 1.0 didn't do too well. I mean, we need to get ahead of this. From my standpoint, having seen the scope and breadth of what we call Southwest Louisiana, I think we have the ability to get above that, to get in front of that, so we're not going hat in hand to Washington, D.C. when these things hit. I think just the numbers I was putting out there on the I-10 corridor, we'd start generating $2.1 billion just off of that area, not just counting everything else that's sitting out there. I mean, you look at the east side of Lake Charles, the Highway 14 corridor, I mean, all the businesses are boarding up over there, and we're creating a donut hole, a cancer in our community that's so avoidable. And for me, I can't sit there at night and be at peace with myself if I don't try to do something about it. So that's why I'm running for mayor. I think the energy we put into the Just Imagine process, especially the input from the community, I think that's a driver, a good plan to go out there. But it has to be involved with everybody. Everybody needs to be at the table. Everybody needs to have meaningful participation, and we have to make sure that we benefit as a community.
Absolutely, absolutely. And friends, I want to just kind of, y'all know I do this. I highlight certain things that we've heard and seen from the candidate. And so he mentioned something entitled Bayou Greenbelt. He also told you about, and I should have wrote down that last initiative you were talking about, but Just Imagine. And so he talked about that and other things that he wanted to do. And we all know that adjudicated properties and things like that have been a problem in our community. And let me just say, as he said, I want to reiterate, that's not just a Lake Charles problem. I remember growing up in Shreveport. That was a problem we had in Shreveport. So it's not like just a now problem or a Lake Charles problem. That is a problem across these United States in our urban communities. And of course, there are many reasons as to why, but we won't get into that now. But I say all that to say, here is a candidate who is here before you today, who has a plan and a vision. He has plans of action He didn't just say, "Oh, we have adjudicated properties, and yeah, they'll get tied up in titles. Oh, you can't clear them, all that." No, he had an alternative plan for that, right? He was able to tell you about Bayou Greenway. He was able to tell you about Just Imagine, and he even laid out a light vision. And I say it was a light vision, but I'm sorry to make light of it because it was not light. It was a real vision of what the downtown waterfront area could look like. I mean, he didn't go into the greatest of detail, and that's why I said the light part. But I mean, he has a vision. I mean, even of how he would have set up the children's area and made things more accessible. And I've had an opportunity to talk with him off air. And again, y'all know I'm not here to tell you what candidate to vote for, who to vote for. I'm just here to present all of the evidence that the candidate presents to me, to you, in a way that is palatable and understandable for you. And so that's what I do, and that's why I am here. If any other candidate were here and had taken use of this process that we have here on this station, I would be saying the same things if they had good things to say. So I'm not being paid by this candidate to say any of this. I'm just sharing with you what I see from this candidate. He has a vision for the city. He has a plan on how he can see the things that he wants to happen in this city. And so, I know we have covered quite a bit of the things that qualify you to be mayor. And today, you went a little bit into why you're running for mayor. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And, I don't want to close out today without giving your lovely wife an opportunity to say something to the people. So, Miss Paula, what you got today?
Well, I don't even know what to say after all this. This was so complete to me. But as you can see, when I looked at him, the first word I wanted to say is he's so full, so full. But what I want to say is he's so passionate about his city of Lake Charles. This is just a little bit. I hear it all the time.
You sure do.
He's very passionate about his city. And he wants to use simply his gifts and his talents to make life better for people, individuals, and the city. Yes. We can understand the plight of people. We've been, I think, at every range of where people might be. Yes. So we have a sensitivity. We really do. And through Marshall's education and being connected in all of those leading councils and boards and state boards, he understands how this city, this state works. He's been able to connect the dots, as they say. And he's been an influencer, a leader. He collaborates well with individuals because he can't do it by himself. No. But it's been 25 years here and 33 years in law. He knows a little something, but it's not about everything I want to tell you about me. It's to tell you that I have the education, I have the experience to help move this city forward and to make it a stronger Lake Charles. And I just want to use my gifts and my talents to do just that.
Wow. I tell you.
I think that's
that's your PR person right there, my man. She's got it.
That is my rock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And God works through her and he blesses me.
That'll work. Friends, listen, I want to continue to encourage you to, if you are interested in supporting this campaign, you can go and check out their website. It is Simien for Mayor.com. That's SIMIENFORMAYOR.com. Or you can go on social media to elect Marshall Simien, and you can find him on Facebook there. Connect with this candidate. And one thing I've come to learn about him is he is approachable. So if you see him out and about, don't just monopolize his time, use up all his time or go and berate him with all of your, anger and resentment for things that happened years ago. And that's not necessarily the time for that. But if you have legitimate questions, concerns about his plans, his ideas, his candidacy, all of that, then why don't you go and share those with him, okay? So I do want to continue to encourage you all to make available this process. And here in Lake Charles, I think we have some of the most approachable candidates and elected officials as possible. I ran into someone on this school board the other day, and I was able to sit with them or just stand in the middle of Walmart and talk with them about certain things that are going on in the school board. And here it is, you have a candidate who I know will be the same. And one of the things I think that is interesting, I want to point this out because I tried not to say it, but I'm going to say it anyhow. I think it's interesting that we have a candidate who is just from North Lake Charles, but still lives in North Lake Charles.
I'm not going anywhere.
It's interesting to know that, and I mean, it rings in my ear, and I don't want to misquote what you said, but ever since last week when you shared the story about when you were on the city council and the one guy said, the chairman of the council said, I want the city councilman to recognize that he represents the entirety of Lake Charles or entire city of Lake Charles and not just one portion. And your response to him, I'm not going to try to quote it because I don't want to butcher it, but
right.
It rings in my ears. Because you were elected by North Lake Charles. So you have to have their interests in mind. And I know if you are elected to the position of mayor, yes, you would be from North Lake Charles, but you would also have been elected by the entirety, including North Lake Charles.
One Lake Charles.
Yes, yes. So, friends, listen, I'm telling you, I could spend, I'm in another 30, 45 minutes, an hour or so, talking with this candidate and getting to know more about his plan, his vision, because I believe that this candidate does have some great ideas and other things to share with us. And so we're going to come back next week, right?
Sure, yeah.
All right, good. We'll keep this going. And we'll dive a little bit deeper. We've kind of ran through his qualifications, but now I'm sure there are more pressing issues that you all have. And let me just remind you, if you have any questions that you want to submit to the candidate, you can always submit them here to the radio station. I'll make sure that they get to the candidate. You can always call me, 337-564-5470. Again, that number is 337-564-5470. If we do not answer, the voicemail does pick up. Feel free to leave a voicemail. Or you can email me at shabakradio935@gmail.com. That's SHABACHRADIO 935@gmail.com. That's a long thing, but I got it.
I got it.
Or you can always go on our Facebook page, submit it there, and I'll make sure we get those to the candidate. Be sure to check out that website, Simien for Mayor, SIMIEN, and elect Marshall Simien on social media. All right, I think I ran through everything there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. I know you've got a lot. You're still running your law firm, plus, you've got a lot of other stuff going on as a family man and all that. But thank you for your time today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be sure, friends, let me just say, be sure to share this with a friend. Be sure if you have somebody who you know is at work and they couldn't tune into this and you think maybe there was something said that they needed to hear, this does rebroadcast tonight here on this station at 5:15 p.m. So keep it locked. You're tuned in to I Am Encouraged Radio here on 93.5 KPPM.
Lake Charles, turn us up. We've got the soul on Lake Charles.